In the next few weeks, the United States is going to have a new president-elect. Either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris will be the 47th president of the United States. The president is often called the leader of the free world. What aspects of leadership are critical to that role? I'm sure you're going to have a lot of opinions. Here's Tim Pool talking about some real-world situations that the next president is likely going to have to deal with. As he explains this, I want you to think about how you have operated in times of stress, having to deal with partial information, and having to deal with very difficult choices because those choices have impact on other people's lives. Maybe not life and death, but people's lives.
I gave a speech this past weekend, last week. I hope you saw it. It's on this channel. You can look it up if you go to the videos tab. And it was my discussion about why I think Donald Trump is the right choice. We have this story. Mystery drones swarmed a U.S. military base for 17 days. The Pentagon is stumped. U.S. officials don't know who is behind the drones that have flown unhindered over sensitive national security sites or how to stop them.
So let's think about this. Right now, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, he's about to transition out. Issues like this are going to fall to Harris or Trump to handle. Who do you want to be in charge? More importantly, why do you want them to be in charge? Think about how you want the president to respond to situations like this. Think about the aspects of their personality and their experience and what that means on your view of leadership.
World War III, my friends, is a very real consideration. I don't think it's necessarily one of the top issues for most people, but it matters to me a lot. You need to understand that Donald Trump, as the commander-in-chief, or Kamala Harris, they are our chief diplomat. Their job is controlling national security, discussing and negotiating with foreign nations as our leader, our commander-in-chief.
Exactly. The President of the United States is the commander-in-chief of the military. He is the ultimate leader in terms of the executive branch of the government. He's the chief diplomat. Harris or Trump will have to deal with extremely troubling situations. Here's a situation where we have drones around the Pentagon, and the Pentagon says they don't know who's flying them. Is it domestic? Is it foreign? What's the intent? Or is this potentially somebody investigating and testing security? We don't know. How would you respond in a situation like this? How do you want your leaders to respond when tested with situations like this?
I see in Donald Trump a flawed individual. He's great in many ways, don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously the guy's got capabilities, but he's far from perfect. And I say this all the time because people assume that you know, if I say I like Trump for this reason, they always play this game online. Well, what about this? What about that? Yeah, we recognize those things. By all means, criticize the man all day. But I want someone who's going to negotiate from a position of strength. And I want someone who I believe truly is interested in peace. I think we saw that from him in the first place. And that's why I mentioned that speech that I gave at this rally, because that's my motivating factor for the most part. Now, of course, there's domestic issues that I think matter greatly as well. But I have to say that when I see stories about drones swarming a base for 17 days, why are they reporting this? I mean, there's a whole lot of things to break down here. First,
before Tim gives his breakdown, I want you to reflect on what he just said. Whether you agree or disagree with Tim, I want you to think about his ability to enumerate the reasons and aspects of leadership that he thinks are important.
First of all, drones are swarming our military bases. Why don't we just take them out of the sky? Second, it's over 2 weeks. We're letting this happen. And lastly, it's being reported officially? Is the intention here to signal to the world that the United States is weak and incapable of defending its own military bases? Apparently so.
So let's take that up. What if we were somehow in charge of responding to this situation? It sounds like there's imperfect information. We don't know who's flying drones around the Pentagon. What would you do? And I really want you to think about this. If you had to make the call, what would you do? Would you shoot these drones out of the sky not knowing who's flying them? Or would you take a more cautious approach, a wait and see? Would you see where they go? How would you respond? Now imagine how difficult it is to actually act on these situations when they happen in the real world.
Because we've already dealt with Antony Blinken in that meeting with China, and they said, you are not negotiating from a position of strength. Okay, well, I'd like to be once again. And that means we're going to need someone who can stand up and point this stuff out and say, shut it down now. Drones should not be flying over U.S. military bases. But let's get the story real quick, and I'll tell you what's going on. U.S. Air Force General Mark Kelly wasn't sure what to make of reports that a large suspicious fleet of unidentified aircraft had been flying over Langley Air Force Base on Virginia's shoreline. Kelly, a decorated senior commander at the base, got on a squadron rooftop to see for himself. He joined a handful of other officers responsible for a clutch of the nation's most advanced fighter jets, including F-22 Raptors. For several nights, military personnel had reported a mysterious breach of restricted airspace over a stretch of land that had one of the largest concentrations of national security facilities in the U.S.
If I had to make a call, I would imagine my call being pretty decisive. I would take these things down. Night after night, drones coming in over restricted airspace. The best move here is decisive. Take them out.
The show usually starts 45 minutes to an hour after sunset, another senior leader told Kelly. The first drone arrived shortly. Kelly, a career fighter pilot, estimated it was roughly 20 feet long and flying at more than 100 miles an hour, at an altitude of roughly 3,000 to 4,000 feet. Other drones followed one by one, sounding in the distance like a parade of lawnmowers. The drones headed south across Chesapeake Bay towards Norfolk, Virginia, and over an area that includes the home base for the Navy SEAL Team 6 and Naval Station Norfolk, the world's largest naval port. Now let me explain to you why this is extremely, extremely dangerous. We deal with security here over at Timcast. We take it very seriously. Swattings are very serious. Sightings, no matter what it is. If someone does something suspect, like we see someone walk on the property, we must go after that person, full extent of the law.
Here we have Tim letting us know the types of situations that he has to think about as he considers the safety of himself and those he cares for in his organization. I like the way Tim's expressing his concern. You don't know what people's intentions are, and when you see somebody suspicious, you need to be cautious. Overreaction can happen, so you want to make sure you're thinking correctly. But if there's a choice between inaction and action, caution and observation are choices you can take in that action category.
You know why? It's a prod. When someone is trying to attack us personally as just a studio, someone will come in acting like a bumbling moron to see how far they can get as part of their intelligence gathering. They say, I was able to walk up to the full property, open the door, and no one stopped me. They came out, yelled at me. This person must be arrested and charged for burglary. If you cross, in most places, this is important too, when you cross a physical barrier of any sorts, that's burglary. People think burglary means breaking into a house and stealing stuff. No, it means crossing a physical barrier. If you enter a property with a sign saying no trespassing that is clearly visible, trespass is not as big a deal, you'll be removed. If you enter a property with no signs, you have to be given a warning first. We take it seriously because
the things Tim just talked about might seem trivial, but if you're wanting to become a manager or a leader or start your own business as an entrepreneur, these are the types of things that you might need to study up on. You might need to understand the responsibility that you will be taking on for other people's physical well-being. You need to be able to understand what is legal and what steps you can take to protect those that you're bringing into your organization. Tim's showing a lot of responsibility and maturity.
Someone may be trying to assess our security. These drones flew over a military base, and what does that mean? It means the data collected is that they can launch whatever attack they want on our bases, excuse me, and we don't respond. We have weakness of government. We have a weak Joe Biden, who's checked out, who's offering up an even weaker Kamala Harris. And that's why I say it's extremely important that we get a president that's going to do a real job.
Again, whether you agree or disagree with Tim, that's not the point of this video. But I agree with his base sentiment that leadership is a key requirement that we have for the President of the United States. The job just means too much to let somebody in there who doesn't have true leadership capabilities. Who do you vote for? You're going to have to decide that for yourself. But I want you to think about, day to day, the difficult decisions some leaders have to make. And as we reflect on how we might respond in those situations, we can think about how we can respond and be better prepared for situations we face in our lives. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment and let me know what you want me to talk about next. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.